There are moments in history when a man is born not to live, but to burn. Friedrich Nietzsche was one such man. Born in 1844 in a quiet German village called Röcken, he came into the world small, fragile, and intensely sensitive. His father, a devout Lutheran pastor, died when Friedrich was just 5. By 12, he was writing poetry about eternity, loss, and loneliness. He wasn't a boy chasing games. He was a child already staring into the abyss. By the age of 24, he had become the youngest professor ever appointed at the University of Basel. A genius, a prodigy. But even then, he didn't belong. His heart wasn't in dusty manuscripts or ivory towers. He wanted something deeper, something truer. He didn't want to study the world. He wanted to rip it open and feel its beating heart. He turned to philosophy, not for comfort, but for combat. He devoured Schopenhauer and felt the darkness of existence press against his soul. He saw life not as a gift, but as a test of will. And so he walked. Miles a day, through forests, up mountains, into storms, thinking, questioning, burning. It was on these lonely walks that his most dangerous thoughts took shape. God is dead. 3 words that would shake the very foundation of the modern world. He wasn't mocking God. He was mourning what had been lost. In a world racing toward science, progress, and reason, Nietzsche saw a deeper crisis, meaninglessness. With God gone, what anchors morality? What defines good and evil? What gives our lives purpose? Most people were too busy to ask. Nietzsche made it impossible to look away. He warned of a new kind of man rising, the nihilist, a person who believes in nothing, who trusts no truth, who sees life as empty. He called this the great danger of the modern world. But Nietzsche didn't stop there. He didn't just predict the collapse. He dreamed of a rebuilding. If old values had died, then it was time for new ones. From this spiritual wreckage, Nietzsche gave us the vision of the Übermensch, the overman. Not a tyrant, not a beast, but a creator. Someone who forges their own values, who lives not by fear or obedience, but by the fire within. Through his prophet Zarathustra, Nietzsche declared, "Man is something that must be overcome. To live fully is not to be safe. It is to struggle, to suffer, to face your demons, and dance anyway." Nietzsche's philosophy was not for the weak-hearted. It was a call to the brave, to those willing to confront pain and transform it into power. He believed in amor fati, the love of one's fate. Whatever happens, joy, tragedy, failure, love it, accept it, not as punishment, but as a path to greatness. But such a path comes at a cost. Nietzsche's health began to collapse. He suffered from intense migraines, nausea, failing vision. His body grew weaker, and so did his mind. His books, radical, brilliant, unapologetic, were ignored by scholars, misunderstood by critics, dismissed as the ramblings of a madman. He lived in isolation, no wife, no children, only thoughts, and the terrible burden of being decades ahead of his time. Then, in 1889, it broke. In the streets of Turin, he saw a horse being whipped. Nietzsche rushed to its side, threw his arms around its neck, and collapsed. He never recovered. His mind shattered. For the next 11 years, he would live in silence, alive, but absent. They called him mad. They called him insane. But in truth, he had gone too deep. He had seen too much. After his death in 1900, his work slowly resurfaced. Read, interpreted, twisted, celebrated. Some used his words for war, some for revolution, others to rebuild themselves. Existentialists found a father, artists found a muse, rebels found a torch. But Nietzsche never wanted followers. He wanted FLAMES. He wanted INDIVIDUALS to rise. He wanted you to question, to reject herd thinking, to destroy false idols, and in their place, create something true. He asked the hardest question of all: would you live your life again, exactly as it is, forever? That was the eternal return, a test of whether your life is worth living. If you cannot say yes, then change. If you would not embrace your suffering, then grow. Because to say yes to every joy, every wound, every loss, that is the path of the Übermensch. Nietzsche didn't give answers. He gave a mirror and then shattered it. He left behind not a map, but a flame. And from that flame, you must forge your own path. He was a madman, a prophet, a poet of pain, a philosopher of fire, and though his body died long ago, his words still burn in the minds of those who dare to think. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. That is your challenge, your burden, your gift. So ask yourself, not what the world owes you, but what you are willing to become.